Tonight's story was supposed to be a Cinderella story. The makings of one, anyway. A bright, beautiful, hardworking young woman who fell for a prince of a guy. A happily ever after. A fairy tale ending. The usual ending for a bedtime story. But there's nothing usual about tonight's dead sleep story, because it didn't turn out like anyone had planned. Not a rags to riches Cinderella story, but a diabolical tale of deception and obsession. Get ready for a dark trip down under in this Australian mystery of love and lies and the harrowing search for the truth. Welcome back to Dead Sleep, True Crime for Bedtime. I'm Nancy Miller, the creator of Dead Sleep, and the neat thing about having my own show is being able to see all of the analytics, like where people are listening all around the world. I noticed a bunch of new listeners from Australia via Spotify, so I wanted to tell this story, drawn from a case that was huge in Australia, but not so big here in the States, though it should be, for a few important reasons, which we'll get to tonight. And speaking of important reasons, there's an important reason why Dead Sleep, True Crime for Bedtime is a little shorter than most true crime podcasts. Because the only thing that I think is more important than a good true crime story is a good night's sleep. And it turns out it takes a person somewhere between 18 to 26 minutes to fall asleep. So that's my sweet spot. However, if it takes you longer to fall asleep, become a paid subscriber for bonus episodes and extended cuts via Spotify and Apple beginning in March 2024. But don't worry about that right now. Right now, it's time to settle into bed, get cozy under the covers, and get ready to fall dead asleep with Dead Sleep, True Crime for Bedtime, in part 1 of this dark story from down under, Love Lies. Love is a powerful thing. So powerful, it can overcome all kinds of obstacles. Language differences, long distance. But what about the digital divide? Can a love lived entirely online make it in real life? That's what Emma, a young flight attendant from Queensland, Australia, wondered back in 2011, after she'd found herself falling for a man she connected with on Facebook. At the time, Emma wasn't looking for a relationship. She'd actually just come off of a bad breakup. But, well, this guy reached out to her, and she wasn't quite sure exactly what this was yet. But whatever was happening between Emma and this new man, it felt real. Emma, by the way, is a pseudonym, a fake name created by Australian authorities to protect Emma's real identity. Since the name Emma was used in legal documents and media coverage, I'm going to use it for this podcast too. Emma was in her early 20s, and as an international flight attendant, she was smart, worldly, and savvy. Not someone who'd fall for some rando she met on Facebook. But Emma assured friends, this guy was not random. He was actually an old friend. He and Emma grew up in the same town and knew each other back in primary school years ago. So she knew him already. In fact, a lot of people knew him, or felt like they did. Emma's budding romance happened to be with a young TV star named Lincoln Lewis. Lincoln wasn't A-list Hollywood famous, but in Australia, where they both lived, Lincoln was a household name. For 2 years, he starred in a series called Home and Away, one of Australia's longest-running daytime soap operas, where he played the very handsome and very wholesome high school boy named Jeff. On screen and in person, he exuded the image of the sweet-faced good guy. And when Emma crossed paths with Lincoln one day on a flight, he seemed kind and funny and completely down to earth. They had a nice chat, and they reminisced about where they grew up, the people they knew in common. She even dated one of Lincoln's friends in school. So later, when Lincoln, Link, as he liked to be called, sent her a Facebook request, it was unexpected, but not out of the realm of possibility. She didn't have any expectations. Lincoln was a friend and a fun diversion. But what did surprise Emma, in a good way, was how attentive Link was. He showered her with friendly Facebook messages, not in a creepy way. He just seemed enthusiastic about striking up a friendship. And it was just a friendship, at first. But over the next few weeks, Emma and Link moved from Facebook messaging to texting, then phone calls, then video chats. Sometimes when they chatted over Skype, it appeared he was on location. The video was grainy, and sometimes the image stuttered, and his lips and words didn't sync perfectly. But this was 2011, pre-5G. All of our videos looked grainy and froze mid-sentence. She could still see it was definitely Lincoln. He was daytime TV handsome with blonde hair, blue eyes, a dazzling smile with a charisma that leapt off the screen, even a crappy laptop screen. When he spoke, his voice, it was 100% Link, no question. She pushed any doubts aside. And if anyone close to her seemed skeptical, she could easily allay their doubts. Because Link knew things, specific things, about where they grew up in Australia, friends they had in common, stuff about his family, things nobody but Link would know. And then there were the intimate details. Flirty texts and sexy photos he took and shared with her. The kind of spontaneous photos of select body parts, like his ripped torso and washboard abs, among other bits. Selfies that were obviously snapped right there on the spot with his phone. The kind of angles that only he could find. The kind of intimate photos taken just for her. In turn, Emma trusted Link enough that she too sent sexy pictures and videos of herself, wearing skimpy lingerie and striking suggestive poses for Link's eyes only, of course. But again, even the most dedicated digital romances can only go so far. And trying to have a relationship with a celebrity only added to those challenges. Emma and Link made plans to meet up, but things would always fall apart at the last minute. And it wasn't just Link. Emma's schedule as a flight attendant could be unpredictable too. Over time, Emma's patience wore thin. One time he invited her to his family's home, only to text when she was outside, about to knock on his door, that he said he couldn't make it. Link was devoted online, but if he couldn't make the time to see her in real life, she needed to move on. It didn't matter how famous you were. Emma was a catch. She deserved better. Just as she was about to break up with him, though, Link knew how to say something or do something to reel her back in. Then, around the 3-month mark, when Link canceled plans to meet up once again, those old doubts returned. The question wasn't so much whether or not Link was real. The question was, why didn't the real Link want to be seen with her? What Emma didn't know was Link's reluctance to be seen with Emma had nothing to do with her personally. At that time, Link could have kept Emma, or any new love interest, at arm's length, out of fear. because of something that happened a few years earlier, a scandal that nearly destroyed his career. In 2008, when Link was 21, he engaged in a sexual relationship with a teenage girl. This relationship was described as consensual, including the girl agreeing to Link filming them having sex. But that's not what got Link in trouble. What got him in trouble was when Link decided to show the sexually explicit video footage of him and this teenage girl, who was also his co-star, to members of the cast and crew of the TV show they both worked on. And he showed it to people while on set. The story went public when a disgusted coworker reported Lincoln's antics to the show's network executives, who placed Link on temporary probation. The incident made headlines in Australia back in 2009. In the press, Link's own mother minimized her son's problematic behavior, writing it off as boys will be boys. Link, for his part, issued a weak apology, chalking it up to being a young, dumb guy. I don't know if Emma knew about the scandal, but you have to admit, his actions reflected a troubling disregard towards women, especially young women who trusted him, and his instinct was to betray and exploit someone in their most intimate and private moments. When Emma came along, the scandal appeared to have blown over. It was in Link's rearview mirror. Link had left home and away and was hard at work rebuilding his career, rehabbing his image with appearances on family-friendly shows like Dancing with the Stars. But after that earlier scandal, one could see how he might have been paranoid about having his personal life, especially any romantic interests, unduly scrutinized under the media microscope. In the wrong light, it was possible that any relationship with any woman could lead to negative press. Maybe that's why he was so hard to pin down. Or maybe it was because Emma wasn't the only woman Link was having a relationship with. Whatever the case, Emma was fed up and out of patience. After 3 months of near constant texting, phone calls, and video chats, she demanded they meet up in person or this was over. And that's when things turned weird, and then scary. When Emma called Link's number, it went straight to voicemail. She recognized Link's voice instructing her to leave a message, and she kept calling and calling, his voice telling her to leave a message, but no call back. Was she being ghosted? Seriously? Desperate for answers, she called a mutual friend of theirs, someone Emma and Link both knew from their hometown. Their friend told her that the number she had for him, that wasn't Link's number. When Emma asked if this friend was also friends with Link on Facebook, he said no. Lincoln Lewis isn't on Facebook. The friend gave Emma a different phone number for Link, and when she dialed it, Link answered. "Link, it's Emma," she said. "This may sound weird, but have you and I been dating these past couple of months?" His answer wasn't a matter of a simple yes or no. For Emma, it would prove to be a matter of life and death. "Link, have you and I been dating these past couple of months?" On the other end of the phone, Link listened to the nervous voice. Were they dating? How was he supposed to answer that question? Yes. He knew Emma from primary school. Yes, she dated a friend of his a while back. But no, Link was sorry. He told her there was some mistake. They weren't dating. None of this made any sense. Why would this girl think they were dating? Link raced back to some strange events that had happened in his life recently. like how he'd received phone calls from private numbers. He'd maybe answered once or twice. Whoever it was, hung up. A robocall, a telemarketer, who knew? Link started sending those calls straight to voicemail and forgot about it. He figured they'd give up eventually, and he thought they had. But then, there were other strange things. Things he noticed happening in real life. Things he found odd and unnerving. Like that thing that happened to him in Bali. Bali is a province in Indonesia known for its lush landscapes, especially its beaches and vibrant party culture. It's a favorite vacation destination for Australians. There are more tourists visiting Bali from Australia than any other country, over 1 million a year. So it wouldn't be unusual for Australians to encounter other Australians in Bali, or for a star like Link to be recognized by one of those Australians. But what happened to Link was something different. Link was enjoying himself on the beach in Bali, and this guy, a stranger he didn't know, waved at him from a distance. Link was used to being recognized by fans, sure, but this was different. As this guy came closer and closer, his smile got bigger, and he kept waving and waving like they were friends, good friends. The guy pushed through the crowds, walked all the way up to Link, and went in to give him a big hug. Link pulled back. "Do I know you?" Link saw the confusion on this dude's face. "Yeah, it's me." He gave his name, but Lincoln didn't know it. The man said they'd been exchanging DMs for weeks, maybe months. That wasn't me," Link said. The man's face changed. He was obviously embarrassed, but mostly a little hurt. "I'm sorry. I thought we were mates," he said. Link remembered the guy apologizing and that he was nice, and he moved on. But Lincoln was confused. What was going on? Was someone messing with him? It'd been 3 years since his scandal. Lincoln was now in his mid-20s, and he'd left the soap opera series and clawed his way back to the spotlight. He had TV and film projects in the works. Those phone calls. The stranger in Bali thinking they were best friends. An online romance with Lincoln's name and face attached. There was someone out there posing as Link. It was as if they were trying to screw up his life, dooming him to fail. Someone who had it out for him. What if this wasn't about Emma? What if all of this was about Link, and Emma was just collateral damage? Towards the end of that phone call with Emma, he kept saying he was sorry, but whomever she was dating, it wasn't him. On the other end of the line, Emma was in shock. She couldn't believe it. This guy, whoever he was, knew everything about Link. He looked just like him. He acted just like him. And now, he knew everything about her. The realization that her Link wasn't the real Link sent Emma into a tailspin. Somebody out there she had no idea who it was, had intimate pictures of her, knew everything about her and her family. What was she supposed to do? Not long after that call, Emma went to the local police station in her town in Australia and filed a report. The police asked how much money the scammer had stolen from her. "None," she answered. Had this guy shown up at her house? No, not that Emma knew of. Did the scammer publicly post those racy photos? Did she find them online somewhere else? No. They were on his phone, that's all she knew. So, the police wondered, what crime was she here to report? It seemed the police didn't quite know what to do. This wasn't a burglary or a robbery or an assault. This was all happening online. And therefore, it seemed like their hands were tied. Emma would need supporting evidence that this guy was posing as Lincoln, and maybe that was identity theft or fraud. It was one way in. Emma needed to reconnect with the real Link to see if he could help her. Link agreed to go to the police station and make a statement supporting Emma's claims. They arranged to meet, but then, when it came time to meet, Link, the real Link, he canceled at the last minute. Her last chance to ask Link for help came when she spotted the real Link out shopping with a friend. According to witness testimony, Link saw her and ignored her, blanked her. Then Link's friend walked over and told Emma he was sorry about what happened, but Link wanted nothing to do with making a complaint to the police. He just couldn't risk his reputation and hurt his career. Without Link's support backing her up, what was Emma supposed to do? She summoned her courage and took matters into her own hands. She arranged a Skype call and confronted this scammer right there on the spot. Who was he? The person on that video did look a lot like Link. Did she know him? Had she seen him before? Emma demanded to know who he was and why he was doing this. Much to Emma's surprise, the man on the screen confessed. It was all just supposed to be a joke, he said. It just went too far. It was all a practical joke that had gotten out of hand. His real name was Michael, and like Link, he was also an actor. He was British, not Australian, and not as famous as Link. He told Emma that he and a few friends created a fake Facebook profile for Link as a silly prank. They'd sent requests to people to mess with Link. It was supposed to be harmless, and they hadn't planned on taking it further. But Michael hadn't planned on connecting with Emma either. And once they met, he began to have real feelings for her. He wanted to reveal who he was to Emma much sooner, but he didn't know how. And he was really sorry. Could she forgive him? I want to pause here because what happened next is really hard to understand. Unless you've been the target of a master manipulator, it's impossible to grasp just how much they can get inside your head. Because Emma not only forgave Michael, she fell in love with him. And for a while, things looked promising. They'd eased into a long-distance relationship with Emma in Australia and this guy whom she knew as Michael, based in the UK. But soon, more trouble. Emma started receiving threatening text messages that were more vile and outrageous than the next. At one point, she received a flood of messages from random phone numbers suggesting that Michael had been kidnapped. Emma was herself an emotional hostage, so stressed by the roller coaster of drama that she couldn't sleep, eat, or function as a flight attendant. Emma struggled to know what was real and what was fake. As for Michael, it turned out he was also a victim. He told Emma he was a victim of someone cyberstalking and harassment too, maybe an ex-girlfriend. Who knew? Emma couldn't keep track of all of the strangers in her digital life. Through Michael, she was now embroiled in constant and elaborate communication. An online world she couldn't see or touch with people she didn't know. She became severely depressed. Hundreds of texts from who knew how many people, and yet Emma never felt so alone. But Emma wasn't alone. There was another woman out there, just like her. caught up in an elaborate web of deception, with Lincoln Lewis at the center. So how will Emma find this mystery woman? And how will they go about catching the white whale of catfishing? Find out in the next episode of Dead Sleep True Crime for Bedtime, in part 2 of Love Lies. Follow the show and check back in. I'll be dropping that episode in a few days. Until then, nighty-night.